Hey up! Finally, the full review of the Hitchcock's free float stainless steel exhaust system for the BSA Gold Star 650. And my appraisal of the Hagon 2820 shock absorbers all rolled into one video. Now, I got a little bit caught out by the weather in this one. I've been watching the weather for a while. I'd sort of decided that Wednesday was going to be the warmest, driest day. Actually, we've not had any rain for a week and a half now. But things didn't turn out quite how I was expecting them to turn out. The roads were soaking wet. It's just that, you know, the damp atmosphere that we have at this time of the year. It was slippery, it was filthy, and it was a lot colder than the weather forecast had predicted. It was round about 3 degrees. But I knew it was going to take me a while to film this, and I figured by the time I sort of, you know, get to it and get the camera set up, it'll probably have raised by a couple of degrees and all would be good. It wasn't. About 30 seconds after I reached my favourite S-bend and got my camera set up, a sheet of freezing fog descended on me. The road was wet and slimy because of the agricultural vehicles dropping mud all over it, and visibility for oncoming vehicles, because this is a single track road, was pants, to be quite honest. So I wasn't able to push the bike in the way that I normally do on this particular road when I'm doing these tests. I'm sorry about that. It is what it is. I've tried my hardest. This is the best that I've managed to come up with. Now, on a plus side, it wasn't very windy. Normally it's blowing a gale on this bend. There was a little bit of wind, but I managed to actually switch off the wind filter so you can get a crisper sound from the exhaust. So there is a little bit of wind noise, but it's not bad. But first of all, let's talk about these Hagon 2820 shock absorbers. These really blew me away. I can't believe how good they are. It's a clear example of a shock absorber that's been specifically designed for a particular bike and rider weight, from a company of experts that know exactly what they're doing. Now, these were actually a collaboration between Hitchcock's motorcycles and Hagon motorcycles. I will leave the link to Hitchcock's website because they're the people that supplied these for this test. The only downside for me is that after filming I realised I was going to have to take these shocks off and put another set on, and I'm just hoping they're going to be as good as these are. Now, these 2820 shocks are designed to be simple and easy to use for the user. They just have a 3-position spring preload adjustment. Preload setting 1 is intended for solo riding only. Position 2 is intended for rider and pillion, and position 3 is intended for rider and pillion with luggage. You know, these shocks are intended for comfortable, practical use. They're not a track shock, hence the simple 3-stage preload settings. Now, the damping is fully adjustable for rebound and compression, and both those adjustments are on one circuit. Turning this adjuster adjusts both compression and rebound at the same time to keep it simple for you. Turning it anti-clockwise reduces damping and softens the ride and rebound up. Turning it clockwise stiffens it up. Adjustment is graduated with a discernible click as you actually turn the screw, so you can accurately count the sort of adjustment points so that you know exactly how much you've adjusted the damping by. Now, I slackened it off by about 4 clicks. I'm very familiar with these shocks, so I know more or less exactly where I am with them, and it was perfect right out of the box. It substantially improves the handling of the BSA. You know, all that sort of floatiness and vagueness has gone, and the whole bike feels more predictable and precise on the bends. The shocks have been balanced really well with the front forks. It's, as I say, it's absolutely perfect. I can't fault it. For the most part, you don't feel any imperfections on the road. It's only really severe potholes, etc., that do let you know that you do actually have shocks on the back and the back of the bike isn't floating. I covered a total of 16 miles on an assortment of roads. A lot of them were not much more than farm tracks, to be quite honest. And despite the fact that I'd slackened off the damping quite a lot to allow more movement and a more comfortable ride, the shocks didn't bottom out once. Now, I did check those suspension travel indicators out that I showed you in the last video just to make sure that it hadn't bottomed out. It gave me a respectable 1 centimetre clearance at the bottom, so even on harsh, badly repaired farm tracks, I'm using almost all of the suspension travel with just enough travel in reserve to ensure that it's not bottoming out, which is exactly as it should be. Now, I might have to stiffen it up a little bit for carrying a pillion, we'll see. But the ease of adjustability with these shocks to tune them exactly as you need them for your style of riding and the use you're putting the bike to can't be overstated. These 2820s, in my opinion, are very reasonable priced, and you can spend 3 or 4 times the amount of money on a set of high-tech track shocks which are overcomplicated to adjust and just won't give you this level of ride quality and convenience. And I think that's really what makes these shocks stand out. You know, they're not overpriced, they're really good quality, but the main thing is they're really simple to adjust. Anyone can do it, you know exactly where you are with them. So you can adjust them to perfection with the minimum of fuss. Right, so now I suppose it's time to talk about this here polished stainless steel Goldie style free flow exhaust system from Hitchcock's. Now, I've fitted a number of very similar exhaust systems from Hitchcock's on various different bikes, so I knew pretty much what to expect. There are no real surprises here. It's all very much what I expected. It's freed the engine up loads. Throttle response is much quicker, acceleration's quicker. On the face of it, it does seem to have lost some engine braking, which I suppose is to be expected. But take that comment with a pinch of salt. As I've said, the road conditions were horrendous. It was very slippery and wet, and I wasn't able to push the bike fully to sort of test that out. It might just have been that I wasn't really going fast enough to be able to judge engine braking accurately. Now, from a rider's perspective, this is not an obscenely loud exhaust system. It's just loud enough that it sort of drowns out any of that ticking sort of mechanical noise from the engine that everybody always complains about. All bikes do this. It's just down to whether the exhaust's been quietened down too much so that it becomes obtrusive. The exhaust note is almost baritone. It's a very manly, masculine tone. But, you know, it doesn't annoy you, it's not too loud. Now, I'm just going to let a little bit of footage run on the twisties here so you can hear it for yourselves. Bear in mind, camera audio never gives a true rendition of what it actually sounds like in real life. So bear that in mind. Here we go. So there you are, no glitches, no popping on the overrun. It runs exactly as it should do. A very manly, masculine tone that I think suits the 650 Gold Star perfectly. And finally, the flyby, something that everybody's been requesting. Now, normally when I do this test, I make sure that we've got respectable temperatures and that the road's dry, because it is quite a bad piece of road. It's quite bumpy, and you know, the farmers tend to dump quite a lot of mud on the road, which can make it a bit treacherous. Add to that the freezing fog and the falling temperatures. We were getting close to freezing while I was filming this. I mean, I can't believe it. Clear skies, as you see here, just as I'm approaching it, and then by the time I got my camera set up, we were in a sort of pea soup fog. Normally, I hit this bend at about 50 or 55 and change down one or two gears before I take the bend. That just wasn't possible in these road conditions. The fastest I managed was just under 40 miles an hour, so yeah, it's the best I could do. It just wasn't safe to go any faster. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to let the video play out with a couple of these flybys. So I'll take the opportunity now to say thanks so much for watching this and my other videos, and in doing so helping to support this channel. I really do appreciate it. I'd also appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe to this channel if you're not already a subscriber. Now, there are other ways you can help me out via my Patreon page, or via PayPal donations, or of course via the super thanks button down below. I see these as a sort of opportunity or facility of offering a tip for the work that I do. There's no obligation if you don't want to do it. I will of course be back next week, so until then, please ride safely and I'll see you soon.